From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. First, the headlines. Senator Joe Manchin declined support for $2 trillion bill killing Build Back Better. Muslim nations unite to help unlock frozen Afghan assets. Omicron variant gives rise to another COVID-19 wave. British Muslims protest controversial nationality bill. A mob chanting, "We are Hindus, kill Muslim man." French government seeks new initiative targeting Islam. And our top story tonight. Senator Joe Manchin on Sunday said he could not support the Democrats' roughly $2 trillion spending plan. The legislation would overhaul the nation's healthcare, education, climate, immigration, and tax laws. The West Virginia Democrats' comments effectively killed the legislation central to President Joe Biden's agenda. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Manchin's opposition to President Biden's social spending package was a breach of his commitments. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent, said Manchin does not have the guts to stand up to powerful special interests. 6 progressive lawmakers voted against the infrastructure bill in November. They opposed moving forward with the legislation without also passing social spending and climate package. But Speaker Nancy Pelosi remained optimistic, and Senator Chuck Schumer said that the Senate will vote on a revised version early next year. Goldman Sachs cuts its forecast for U.S. first quarter GDP to 2% from 3% after Manchin's announcement. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation on Sunday announced steps to mitigate a looming humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. The move came at a day-long session of the 57-member coalition on Afghanistan held in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. Foreign ministers of member states and representatives of the UN, the US, and the UK, Germany, Japan, Italy, and several international organizations were in attendance. Afghanistan's delegation, led by acting Foreign Minister Amin Muttaqi, also attended. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi and OIC Secretary General Hussein Brahmin Taha said a humanitarian trust fund will be established to help Afghans. The conference called for unlocking the financial aid and banking channels for Afghanistan, and members agreed to launch a food security program.
And I must say that we have to, and I speak to the United States specifically, they must de-link the Taliban government from the 40 million Afghan citizens. Even if they have they've been in conflict with Taliban for 20 years. But this is a question of the people of Afghanistan. 40 million human beings. And that's why it is very important that action is taken immediately.
On OIC Summit, we have a special in-depth analysis segment coming up later tonight. So keep watching Muslim News. U.S. air wars in the Middle East have been marked by deeply flawed intelligence and have killed thousands of civilians, according to Pentagon documents. Of those thousands killed, many were children, according to the New York Times. Muslim News reported on September 3rd that a drone strike in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, killed the families of American allies. The New York Times and CNN later reported the same. A Times investigation examining more than 1,300 documents from a hidden Pentagon archive reveals that since 2014, American air wars have had rushed and imprecise targeting. The 5-year investigation reviewed airstrikes in Iraq and Syria from September 2014 to January 2018. Senator Bernie Sanders, chair of the U.S. Senate Budget Committee, spoke at a rally in Battle Creek, Michigan, where Kellogg's factory workers have been on strike for 10 weeks. Speaking to a booing crowd, Sanders said, "You don't treat people who gave their lives to your company by threatening them with permanent replacements."
Corporate greed is about telling workers here at Kellogg's who have worked incredible hours, whose dads and moms and their grandparents worked for this country. They're saying that when you go out on strike, we are prepared to bring in permanent replacement.
U.S. infectious diseases expert Dr. Anthony Fauci says that the Omicron variant is raging through the world and that travel increases COVID risks. 5 months after President Joe Biden declared the U.S. on the verge of defeating COVID-19, the Omicron variant threatens to peak cases. New Yorkers waited in long lines on Sunday in front of the Center for COVID-19 testing amidst fear of the latest variant. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker tested positive Sunday for the coronavirus. London Mayor Sadiq Khan declared a major incident Saturday as the Omicron variant surged through the UK's capital. Turkey will send 15 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to Africa, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced Saturday. Speaking during a major summit of African leaders, Erdogan added low vaccination rates are disgraceful for humanity. Only 6% of the continent's population has been vaccinated. Erdogan said Turkey is aware of the global injustice in accessing the COVID-19 vaccine and Africa's unjust treatment. Ankara has invested heavily in developing trade and diplomatic ties with the continent during Erdogan's tenure as prime minister and then president since 2003. While cases are rising rapidly, vaccination rates are low. Turkey is developing its own vaccine called Turkovac. It is in the process of receiving emergency use approval. Britons held a protest denouncing the government's controversial Nationality and Borders Bill in London on Sunday. Protesters gathered in front of the Prime Minister's office and shouted slogans against the bill. They also carried banners reading "Solidarity's No Borders," "No to Islamophobia," "No to War." The Nationality and Borders Bill includes articles criminalizing illegal entry to the UK. It gives the United Kingdom government extended rights to deport any migrants without the necessary paperwork. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said citizens must play a role in ensuring fundamental rights are defended. His comments came after a Muslim teacher in Quebec was dismissed for wearing a hijab in class earlier this month. Trudeau defended his government's response to Quebec's secularism law, called Bill 21, during an interview with Rosemary Barton, CBC's chief political correspondent. Bill 21 bans public servants in positions of authority from wearing religious symbols on the job. Trudeau said in the interview that Canada could choose to intervene at a future date. When pressed about why his government has limited its opposition to Bill 21 to words, Trudeau said defending rights is not just the jobs of governments. A 22-year-old Muslim boy was hacked to death by his friends in Haryana in yet another case of hate crime in India. A video circulating on the internet shows Rahul Khan beaten to a pulp in blood-covered clothes. People can be heard saying, "Hum Hindu hain, Hindu," while they kick Khan. Khan was last seen alive by his family before his friends took him away, demanding a treat despite his unwillingness. Khan's family was told he had been killed in an accident. They took Khan to a hospital where he died 6 hours later. A video shows a badly injured Khan being beaten up mercilessly. Post-mortem reports show multiple traumatic injuries to parts of his body, including his head, legs, and eyes. The lynching of Muslims in India has become an almost daily occurrence. A 21-year-old man who allegedly made insensitive comments and threats against Muslims on Instagram faces charges in a Singapore court today. He was charged with posting on Instagram stories with deliberate intent to wound the religious feelings of any person, police said. They added that they received many reports prior to his arrest about an Instagram user who had posted insensitive comments and threats that could incite violence against the Muslim community. Officers identified and captured the man on June 8, 2020. They seized a laptop, a computer, and a mobile phone. With presidential elections drawing near, the French government is looking for ways to attract far-right voters. France's right-wing Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin announced he would organize a Forum of Islam in France early next year. The country is exerting what some see as influence over how Muslims practice their faith. Through the proposed forum, the government will designate about 100 people to be religious leaders, imams, and members of civil society for the French Muslim community. These will be individuals who support the French government's belief that Islam and Muslims are a problem in France. In 2020, French President Emmanuel Macron pressured the French Council of Muslim Worship to sign a charter of Republican values. France is home to Europe's largest Muslim population, which numbers over 5 million. The streets of Chile's capital, Santiago, exploded in celebration Sunday after leftist Gabriel Boric was declared the country's new president. Boric secured an unexpectedly large victory over his far-right rival in a polarizing race. He won nearly 56% of the vote compared to 44% for ultra-conservative José Antonio Cast. Cast congratulated the president-elect on Twitter, even before the final result was known. Chileans took to Santiago streets after Cast's concession, honking cars in approval and brandishing pro-Boric placards. They shouted "Viva Chile" and set off fireworks. Boric campaigned on the promise of installing a social welfare state, as well as increasing taxes and social spending. Chile has one of the world's largest gaps between rich and poor. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment on the OIC summit. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
I am what hunger looks like in America. I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2 who works 3 part-time jobs, and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome back. To discuss the outcomes of the OIC summit in Pakistan, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Hena. Whole world is concerned about Afghanistan. As far as media news is concerned, it comes up in the United States once in a while that so many people are at risk of dying and there is a drought and situation is terrible. Some people have committed to the United Nations. Meetings after meetings are happening. Something is really being done. Muslim world seems to have united. They came together in Pakistan for a foreign ministers conference of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And we have someone who knows America and who is Director General of the Institute of Strategic Studies in Islamabad, Ambassador Izaz Chowdhury. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thanks for having me.
Ambassador Chowdhury has served as Pakistan ambassador to the United States between 2017 and 2018. This summit seems to be substantial, with large participation from 57 member states. How many foreign ministers actually were there?
To the best of my knowledge, there were 20 foreign ministers and I think as many deputy foreign ministers. Yeah.
Okay. So it was a one-day conference, and it was called an extraordinary session. What were the urgency?
Well, the urgency was clarion calls being voiced from the United Nations and host of humanitarian agencies that Afghanistan is heading towards a humanitarian catastrophe. And there were clear reports that poverty levels were rising, something like 97% of the population. And then there were also imminent economic collapse about to happen because the banking system was not working. There was a serious liquidity crisis. Nobody could buy anything. Nobody could sell anything. It was a virtual standstill. Nobody was being paid, no salaries, no nothing. So therefore, there was a need that somebody does something. So people were looking at the United States because United States was expected to release the $9 billion funds. It didn't. And then the World Bank and other international financial institutions couldn't do much. Then they were looking at the region, the neighbors of Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Central Asia, China, Russia, Turkey. And there too, not much was really happening. So somebody had to take this step, and I think Pakistan did well by saying that if you are expecting the United States to chip in, the region to chip in, I think it is only natural that the Muslim fraternity should also come forward. So Saudi Arabia made the proposal, Pakistan hosted the conference, there we are. At least a clarion call has been made to the international community that the Muslim world wants to help the ordinary people of Afghanistan. This was just one item agenda or a humanitarian situation. It had nothing to do with the politics of recognizing or not recognizing the Taliban government. All they wanted to do was to mobilize funds and arrange for it to be taken to the ordinary Afghans, the 38 million of them. Yeah.
So Ambassador Chowdhury, but one of the unique things which we saw, unlike the United Nations, where Taliban government of Afghanistan was not invited, in this particular conference, their foreign minister was invited and participated and addressed. Was that a token of recognition?
Well, the Taliban, their rule in Kabul is now a political reality. And everyone, when I say everyone, I mean from United States to Pakistan and in between everyone, is engaging with them because they are the main interlocutors now we have in Afghanistan. But that's de facto recognition. There's a de jure recognition. So the OIC's ministerial had two sessions. One was the formal plenary session where the Taliban foreign minister did not make address. They also did not occupy the Afghanistan chair, which was kept vacant. They addressed the Taliban acting foreign minister addressed the closed session in which he pleaded his case. The reason for these was basically the legal aspect of it, because as of now, no country, including Pakistan, has recognized the Taliban regime formally. And they cannot do so until the sanctions imposed on the Taliban regime via 1267 UN Security Council sanctions regime, which was adopted in 1999, my apologies, is rescinded. So the steps will have to be taken to delist the Taliban from the sanctions regime, and then wholesale recognition can take place. So it was a very unusual, peculiar circumstances, but nevertheless, we were happy that the Taliban were represented at the foreign minister level, and they did speak to all the delegations in the session, as well as on the sidelines. A number of meetings were held with all interlocutors. Yeah.
So, Ambassador Chaudhary, what was achieved in that one-day extraordinary conference hosted by Pakistan?
I think there was whole lot, but the most notable outcome was creation of a trust fund under the Islamic Development Bank in Jeddah, where the member states would make contributions, and then Islamic Development Bank will make arrangements in Kabul and in rest of the Afghan country in coordination with the financial institutions as well as the United Nations to make sure that all these funds which are collected are expeditiously transmitted to the ordinary people of Afghanistan. You are aware that there are several United Nations agencies like World Food Programme and others which are already active throughout Afghanistan. So this Muslim world could also play a complementary role to supplement their efforts of the UN agencies. So this was one major outcome, because there was, as of now, there was just simply no vehicle, no special purpose vehicle to get those funds there, because there are no banking channels. The second was that the Islamic Council of Foreign Ministers launched a food security program by which they would procure the food from various Muslim countries and then ensure its distribution and dissemination in Afghanistan. There were also some other steps taken, like a special envoy was appointed who should work in liaison with the government in Afghanistan, as well as with the international institutions, to make sure that the rough edges are chiseled out, the kinks are removed, so that humanitarian assistance can be resumed, not only resumed, it's already there, but can be enhanced, and then some kind of humanitarian corridors could be created between Afghanistan and its neighbors. Yeah.
Ambassador Chaudhary, was there a call made to the world institution for the proper banking system to be restored in Afghanistan?
Well, all these institutions were represented in Islamabad, as were the United States and other P5 countries. All important countries were there. They very well are aware of the urgency of the matter. But the issue, as I indicated to you, was the legal complication. Until the Taliban are listed, I don't think these banks will muster enough confidence to start these regular transactions. Yes, so they very well know what the problem is, but because of this legal hitch, they have not been forthcoming so far.
So that legal hitch is a legal hitch, or is a bargaining chip which someone has imposed on Afghanistan, and isn't this an indicator that politics is still is considered high priority as compared to humanitarian situation?
You could say that there are people who argue that politics is impeding the humanitarian considerations. The biggest of all, United States, which had been physically present in Afghanistan for 20 years and had to withdraw in May. And thereafter, the government and the Afghan National Army simply folded up within days.
You mean September, end of August?
Yeah, 15th August, the Taliban took over in just 11 days. But so there is an expectation that the United States should not abandon Afghanistan. After all, it had spent considerable blood and treasure in Afghanistan, so they should not simply abandon them. But we also talked to the think tanks in Afghanistan, in the United States, and my own my own sense is that that there is a domestic politics in the United States. Taliban, the Republicans, and are sort of putting a lot of pressure on the Democrats, and the Biden administration does not seem to have enough appetite to be seeing to do anything which is supportive of the Taliban. So there is a kind of stalemate in Afghanistan. Although now we can see that voices are rising within Afghanistan. There was a letter written by a number of several dozen congressmen and women, and then there was also an article in the Atlantic Council by thought leaders, some very prominent names there. So there is a pressure that politics should be separated from the humanitarian considerations. Our Prime Minister Imran Khan also spoke along the same lines in his keynote address, that let the politics rest for a while and let's focus on humanitarian considerations. That if United States can be forthcoming, they can certainly help in getting that exemption from the sanctions, and that way we think that we will be able to salvage the situation vis-a-vis the ordinary people of Afghanistan.
But as you know well, Ambassador Chaudhary, politics remains politics. And one of the things which we have noticed is that Indian media is jumping up and down that 5 Central Asian neighbors who are also member of OIC did not attend the conference of OIC in Pakistan. Why were they absent?
This is absolutely lie. India had already scheduled an India-Central Asia dialogue for which the Central Asians were there. But those very Central Asian countries were very much represented in Pakistan. Some of them sent their deputy ministers, some sent some other ministers. One of the foreign ministers actually came to Islamabad first, attended part of it, then went to India, attended that part of it, and then came back to Pakistan. So no Central Asian was unrepresented in Islamabad. No Central Asian was below the rank of deputy foreign minister. So that's a total lie and total propaganda. And I think they're not doing any service to the cause of Afghanistan. They are once again acting as a spoiler.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Azaz Chaudhary, who is Director General of Institute of Strategic Studies in Islamabad. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malik. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Back to you, Hena.
Thank you so much, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.